Warning: Serial Eats contains graphic and explicit content that may not be suitable for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. So, spooky season, it's upon us. Let's go ahead and get started. Are you ready? I am. Here we are. We decided to go ahead and marry the two together. True crime and food. Like, it's a very personal thing, because if you think about it, last meal, you know, like, it has to be something amazing. It has to be something that, you know, like, you are going to be so excited for, because it's going to be your last meal here on earth. Like, you want to enjoy what it is. Some of these people just blew my mind, you guys. So I thought, what better way to tell the story than to go ahead and actually show you what they ate. So in this whole series, I will be going through and I'll be recreating the meal. This is not an instructional video whatsoever. I don't want you to get the wrong idea. This is actually just a video just for fun. I hope that you have a fantastic time with me. It is gonna be a wild ride, and let's get into it. The first one that we're gonna be doing is Ted Bundy. Let's talk Theodore Bundy. So Ted, as everyone knows him, he was actually born over in Vermont. The thing is that his life was already filled with so much trauma and drama and, Lord, literally anything in between. His mother actually never fully told anyone who Theodore's dad was. You know, there's a couple of different men that she said that she thinks might have been the father, but rumor has it that Theodore was actually fathered by her own father, by his mother's father. So, you know, product of incest. So that's a rumor. We don't know for sure if it is true, but if it is, the reason why we're going to discuss that a little bit further in detail is because if it is, let's go ahead and talk nature versus nurture, because his grandpa, or his possible father, had some very narcissistic and sociopath tendencies of his own. So he was extremely abusive to the family. His grandparents had been kind of playing the role of mom and dad, which is not a weird concept for people, especially back then, because his mom had him out of wedlock, and, you know, she was fairly young too, so, you know, they wanted to go ahead and not air out the dirty laundry for everyone. So, you know, the grandparents stepped in and played mom and dad, and then Theodore eventually found out that his mom, who he had known as his older sister for the first part of his life, was actually his mom. So, you know, that can mess with you right there. But his grandpa was actually very abusive to the family, and he got mad at like his youngest daughter and threw her down the stairs for oversleeping one day. And trigger warning, he would also take like neighborhood cats and he would swing them around by their tails. So, like, obviously this man had some issues. So as a child, Ted had some weird little habits, and some might even say that they're potential signs for some worse things in the future. Like, he was abusive to animals. He was a bit of a voyeur. He liked to go and be peeping into people's houses and watch people undress. Then he started collecting knives. He was like super into collecting knives. And at one point when he was a child, actually, he went into his aunt's room, I believe it was, and he surrounded her bed with like a bunch of knives and was just smiling at her. And if that wouldn't make you drop kick someone, I don't know what would. And I said that last night. I stand by what I say. If I saw a small child, like I don't condone hitting anyone, but if I saw a small child in my room surrounding my bedroom with knives and smiling at me, I would immediately think it was a demon and then try and kick it. Like, I'm sorry, but no small child, like, Satan, get away from me. I don't need you to go ahead and try and attack me with knives when I'm sleeping. I feel it's important to say that I will not be disclosing any of the victims' names, mainly just because I feel out of respect, I don't feel like I should go ahead and dredge up more of this for them. So I'm not going to be disclosing their names. If you are interested in learning their names, if you're interested in learning their story, I would suggest go ahead and look at any sort of website that you can possibly do on Ted Bundy. Trust me, there are plenty. There are crazy amounts of books that have been published on him. There are movies, docuseries, podcasts, this right here that we're doing. If you're interested in learning more, absolutely, definitely do it. But I don't feel like I can speak on behalf of the victims and really tell their story, because unfortunately there's not enough for me to do so. So I would rather just not do that out of respect for them and their family. So Ted, when he's in college, he's dating this girl and he is in love. Like, oh my gosh, he wants to marry her. He wants to have babies with her, and she's not about it. Like, she is, but she's not. And she was very affluent, and I think that he had different motives for his relationship with her, because he really, really wanted that lifestyle. He really wanted to be able to go ahead and, you know, be a part of the world that she was in. And so he started going and getting more involved in politics and started getting more involved, with law school. He wanted to go to law school. He wanted to go ahead and make himself better. So he's doing all this and trying to convince her to, set up this amazing future for themselves. And she's not about it. She's like, no, I'm good. Interesting enough, though, most of the victims that he had actually look like this woman. So, like, they are more fair skinned, they have darker, longer hair. And so I think in a way he was trying to kind of replace her. Like, he wanted to kill her, he wanted to hurt her, but he didn't want to hurt her. So he found replacements, which is horrifying. So fast forward a little bit more, he ends up meeting this new woman, and he is so in love with her, and he's playing house with her and helping raise her child. And she was super duper into him, he was super duper into her. Unfortunately, she had some demons of her own. She was a very intense alcoholic, but I'm not trying to shame anyone for that at all. I feel like I just have to say that real quick. This is just who she was. She had a sickness and she was dealing with it. But she was super in love with Ted, and he was helping raise her family. She noticed that there was some weird things going on with Ted, and she didn't really know what it was exactly, but she had a feeling. And so she just started kind of just keeping an eye on him. And while his murder spree was going on, his murder spree went on, you guys, for 4 years. I don't know if you know this, but it went on for 4 years. So it was from February 1st of, I believe, 1974 to February 9th of 1978. So 4 years. 4 years. And it went over 7 states, you guys. 7 states. Like, that's a lot. And he had over 30 confirmed victims. He disclosed where they were buried. He disclosed their names and everything. But there is a horrifying suspicion that there may have been well over 100. And we'll never know, unfortunately. He took that with him to his grave. Ted had some really, really intense fetishes when it came to his crime spree. He burglarized people, he assaulted them, he raped them, he eventually killed them, and he even practiced necrophilia on them. He would go and he would revisit the actual sites where some of the victims were buried, and he would perform acts on the body until it became so decomposed naturally, or if it became too much attacked by nature, if any sort of wild animals got a hold of them. So he would do this, and he had no problem with it. He didn't see anything wrong with this. In fact, it made him feel better to do so. And he actually kept 12 of the heads of some of his victims in his apartment because it gave him a sense of joy to revisit these horrific events. So Ted's not the first serial killer to keep trophies. I don't want you thinking that like he invented the wheel when it came to this. It's just those were his personal things that he really enjoyed. And so eventually Ted is arrested. But the reason why he was arrested is because his girlfriend, remember her? So his girlfriend, like I said, she had a sneaking suspicion. Women always know when something is up. The intuition, man, they always know when something's up. He was doing such an amazing job at hiding in plain sight. Like, he didn't even use an alias for his name, you guys. Like, he would go and he would go up to these victims and he would be like, "Hi, I'm Ted." And he would play on their kindness, and he would play on their innocence and how naive they were. And like, he would pretend to be injured, or he would pretend to be a cop, or he would go ahead and pretend that he was having car trouble, and he would always prey on the women like that. And it's no fault of the victims. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that he saw opportunities to prey on these women and prey on their kindness, and he did it. And his girlfriend knew that something was going on. She was like, okay, well, something's up. So she had a sneaking suspicion one day that, I think that he's involved. I think this is him. So she called the cops on him. She called the cops and she told them, hey, listen, I think that my boyfriend is killing these women. And they turned her away, and they were like, yeah, no, there's no evidence to support that. So sorry, but no dice. Like, that's not going to happen. This is going on. This is how strong this woman is, you guys. Like, I feel like I really have to put that out there. She stayed with him to gain more access to what he was doing, to try and figure out if he was who she thought he was. So she stayed with them. Granted, their relationship was kind of getting to the point where, like, they just were kind of very surface. It wasn't like how it was before. Obviously, like, how can you go back and pretend to be super duper in love with your boyfriend whenever you think that he's killing someone? There's only so much that you can do to, keep that under wraps. Keep that under wraps. So eventually Ted is out, and he's just in his little bug, and he's going around and he's just cruising thinking, hey, I'm gonna find someone next, and like, get my next kill. And he gets pulled over. And the cop is like asking him, like, hey man, like, what's going on? Where are you driving to? Like, you're a long way from home. What's happening here? And so the cop is just wondering, like, what's going on? Like, something seems off with you. Notices that the front seat, like the passenger seat, is gone out of his car. That's a little weird. Why is the front seat gone? What's happening there? You know what? Something's off about you, man. I need you to get out of the car. So he asks Ted to get out of the car. So then he goes and he starts searching the car. And the next thing that he sees is a murder kit. Full-on murder kit. Trash bags, rope. I believe that there was a hammer, an ice pick, like various tools, and duct tape. And so he's like, okay, you know what, we're going down. Isn't going down without a fight. No. So Bundy actually kicked this cop and took off running. And the cop fired not just one, but 2 warning shots. That never happens, you guys. 2 warning shots on a suspected killer who just attacked you and then took off running. Like, you're gonna tell me that you only did 2 warning shots? So 2 warning shots, you guys. Cool. So he ends up being chased and tackled by this cop. Awesome job, dude. Like, you did it. Takes him to jail. So this cop actually was quoted by saying that whenever he arrested Bundy, that Bundy had actually whispered to him, "I wish you had just killed me." Can you imagine not realizing that you just arrested one of the world's most dangerous men, and he's just sitting there like, damn, I really wish that you would have just killed me. I feel a lot of serial killers would rather have it that way. They want to go down in a blaze of glory. They don't want to go down being held responsible. That's no fun. His girlfriend, again, she's super duper helpful. She had a bunch of evidence to give to them, so he was for sure gonna stay in there. So he calls her and he's like, hey, you know what? I did all these things. He confessed to her, but then he also confessed to the fact that he wanted to kill her. He wanted to kill her, but he didn't kill her because he just didn't know how. Well, gee whiz, thank you so much for the sentiment, I guess. After you just confessed that you wanted to kill me. Not that you wanted to. You tried to kill me, and thanks for not doing it. So he wanted to go ahead and act as his own lawyer. So, you know, as shocking as that was, not really, he went ahead and he actually managed to escape by climbing out of a window. And then he ended up getting some clothes and like shedding his stuff all over the place because he was like, no, they can't know who I am. After he escapes, though, he is on the run. He's a fugitive, right? Like, he doesn't know what to do. And so he is just running like crazy. He's running all through Aspen and everything, and he ends up like spraining his ankle, and he breaks into a cabin to steal some food and kind of get shelter and everything. And then at one point he steals a car and he's driving back. And so escape number 2 was whenever he went and he actually had been in jail for a while at this point. And he had nothing better to do with his time. I mean, what else are you gonna do but try and figure out another escape plan? So he figured out a way to kind of like hacksaw through the ceiling. And he lost over 30 pounds and would set up books like in his bed to kind of create the illusion of a body. I don't know how he did that because like books have hard edges. Did they not pay attention to him? Clearly not, because he was able to go ahead and shimmy his way through the ceiling, and he figured out a way to get into the police officer's apartment. So thankfully for the police officer for not being there, and thankfully for Ted, I guess, the cop wasn't there. So first off, the cop didn't get killed, because what could have happened to that guy if he saw Ted sitting there? But also Ted was able to escape. So Ted gets out and he's driving back, and he gets to the point where he's just so tired and just like in so much pain that he just was weaving in and out of the road. Like, you know what I mean? Like just kind of going back and forth. And so the cops see him and they see his car and they're like, I don't know, something's going on with that guy. He had been wanted for 6 days. Ends up going back to jail. So escape number 2 was whenever he went and he actually had been in jail for a while at this point. And he had nothing better to do with his time. I mean, what else are you gonna do but try and figure out another escape plan? So he figured out a way to kind of like hacksaw through the ceiling. And he lost over 30 pounds and would set up books like in his bed to kind of create the illusion of a body. I don't know how he did that because like books have hard edges. Did they not pay attention to him? Clearly not, because he was able to go ahead and shimmy his way through the ceiling, and he figured out a way to get into the police officer's apartment. So thankfully for the police officer for not being there, and thankfully for Ted, I guess, the cop wasn't there. So first off, cop didn't get killed, because what could have happened to that guy if he saw Ted sitting there? But also, Ted was able to escape. So Ted gets out and he's living his best life, just chilling out. We're on trial. Buckle in, kiddos. This is where it gets real crazy. So while he's on trial, he is being followed closely by this woman who is a massive super fan and was super in love with him. And I feel in a way he loved her too, in the best way that he possibly could have. Like, I don't really know if he's like fully capable of loving someone, but I feel like in the best way that he could, he loved her. She was constantly there and she was always rallying for him. She didn't want anyone to, say anything bad about him. She felt strongly in her heart of hearts that he was innocent and that he didn't do any of these things. Baby, no, okay. So while trials are going on, he decides to go ahead and put on this grand performance. And she was one of the main stars. So he went ahead and he proposed to her in front of the entire courtroom. When you do that in a courtroom in front of a judge, it's automatically, yes, you get married right in that moment. Because congratulations, that's what he wanted. He wanted a show. He wanted a spectacle. He didn't think that he was going to be going to jail. He didn't think that he was going to possibly be facing, a life sentence or a execution or anything. He didn't think anything of it because he thought he was so charming, which everyone did. And everyone, if you look back on tapes and everything, you will see all these women and all these men like, he was so charming. He's so handsome. Handsome people don't do that. Charming guys don't do that. Serial killers look a certain way. No, looks can be deceiving. Do not fall for that, because anyone can be a serial killer. I say that, you know what? I don't know if anyone can. Yeah, no, I stand by what I say. So Ted was actually sentenced to death, and he was livid. He told everyone that they made a mistake and that he was a free and innocent man. So, just trying to use anything that he could have done in terms to get more publicity. He loved the spotlight. And so he was, selling memoirs of his life. He was trying to go ahead and kind of twist the narrative, to kind of go ahead and be like, this is what I did, but this is the reason why. And, this is who I killed, but I may have killed more, but I'm not going to tell you. And I may have done this, but I'm not going to tell you that either. And so then eventually he started working with, the FBI, and he started telling them exactly what to look for in a serial killer, like as far as like a profile goes for capturing a killer. And luckily for us that he did that, because we were able to go ahead and capture so many different serial killers because of his profile that he created. But it's just a really weird thing when you think about, like, that was like one good thing that he did in his whole career. That was one good like thing that he did at the very end. So eventually Ted confessed to the murders, like fully and deeply, like confessed to it. When he did this, his girlfriend, or his wife, I should say, was so deeply hurt and just felt so betrayed because, I mean, like, first off, wouldn't you? If you had spent your whole life rallying for this man and, you know, just going out of your way to proclaim his innocence everywhere that you go and trying to defend him and everything. So she packed up, moved back home, took her daughter with her, and on the morning of his execution refused to take his phone call because she was just so hurt and disgusted by him. So Ted ended up passing away due to the electric chair at around like 7:16 a.m. and I believe it was January 24th, 1989. And you know, typically last meals, like I said, they tend to be special, you know? So they had asked him, they were like, hey, listen, do you have any requests for a last meal? Like, what would you like? And he refused, and he said, I don't want anything. So the state of Florida was like, no, we're at least going to give you something. So they had him, they had a meal prepared for him of the traditional Florida meal that they do for last meals, which was a steak that was cooked medium rare, hash browns, fried eggs, toast with jam and butter, and coffee, orange juice, and milk. That was his last meal, and he didn't need any of it. Okay, so what's the main takeaway? I feel like the main takeaway has to be that looks are deceiving. Being good looking and charming is not a personality in and of itself. And, you know, don't let people take advantage of your kindness. I guess that's a takeaway, right? But I know that this was super heavy. It's a super heavy topic, and, you know, we went straight for it with Ted Bundy being our first one. But next week's episode is going to be John Wayne Gacy, aka Pogo the Killer Clown. So we're just getting started, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this as much as I did, and I hope that you know, if you have any questions or comments, or, you know, if I got something wrong, please go ahead and, you know, like, let's talk. Comment in the bottom for sure. Like, I'm definitely for it. But I love you guys. I hope you stay safe, have fun, and you know what? It's spooky season. Let's do it. Let's do it big.